Thank you all so much for being here tonight, and thank you so much for all getting to your seats so quickly. This was definitely the most efficient audience we've ever had. I am so excited to welcome such an amazing panel to talk about the important, super important, more than ever before topic of underground psychedelic healing. My name is Abby Lyle. I am one of the 3 co-founders of the Psychedelic Assembly. For those of you who don't know about us, we run a space called the Athenaeum, which is the room back there that's full of books about drugs. It's a psychedelic library, community center, and social club. It is fully membership supported, so it's open Monday through Friday, 12 to 7 for our members who can hang out, read all of our amazing books, meet each other, drink coffee, co-work, whatever you like. We're also an event space, so we have lots of different types of events open to both members and non-members, although members get free or discounted entry, along with lots of other special perks. We have events like this with panels about certain topics related to psychedelics. We do book signings, documentary screenings, art-related events. We also throw parties. We have events that are more like social gatherings. So whatever flavor of psychedelia you are into, we do it. So if you're interested in learning more about membership, that's truly what helps keep us going and makes it possible for us to do events like this one. So if you're interested, please come talk to me or Robin, our amazing director of operations. And we're also wouldn't be here without the help of all of our amazing volunteers. So thank you to all of our wonderful volunteers who are in the audience. And if you're interested in becoming a volunteer, please come talk to Robin as well. I also want to thank Alana Varel for organizing this amazing panel tonight. She runs, round of applause. She runs an amazing Instagram channel called Underground Mama, and it's focused on helping people who are maybe new to the psychedelic space learn how to self-heal and try psychedelics in a responsible way. So if you haven't checked it out, please do give it a follow at underground.mama. And so without further ado, I am going to hand the mic over to Daniel Pinchbeck, our moderator. Thank you guys so much.
All right, hey everybody, wonderful to be here with all of you today. And this is a subject near and dear to my heart. My first book, Breaking Open the Head, came out in 2002. At that time in New York, where I was living, nobody was really talking about psychedelics or thinking about them that much. It felt like breaking new territory. And now it's quite amazing to see how big the sort of psychedelic movement has grown and how many directions it's gone. So I'm going to ask everybody just to introduce themselves for a minute or two. Obviously their name, kind of a little bit about their background, maybe a little bit about their training, if you want to say something about the type of work that you do or conduct, but try to keep it to like a couple minutes, so then we can move on to questions and group discussion and so on. So then we'll do some back and forth, and then we'll have a Q&A with the audience. As you're listening, think about what would really be galvanizing for you to know from these amazing characters. So Ian, you want to start?
Excuse me. My name is Ian Pei, and I'm a musician and artist.
Grammy Award.
Yes. Nominated, but 2. I've been in the psychedelic medicine space. When I was much younger, I did a lot of things recreationally, and probably about 16 years ago, I came into the space as a participant, and very soon after, trained as a guide, working with a variety of different medicines, initially with synthetics and mushrooms, and then moved to ayahuasca and wachuma. I've held ceremonies all over the place, was trained by someone who was with the Shipibo lineage, and another mentor who was also from Peru. And I think that's about it. Thanks.
Thanks, Ian. My name's Dr. Anna Yusum. I'm a psychiatrist and I'm on the faculty at Yale. I'm starting a mental health and spirituality center at Yale, which is going to bridge the medical school and the divinity school. And I have a very deep interest in psychedelics. So in 2017, I wrote a book, Fulfilled, about the interface of mental health and spirituality. And so I see psychedelics as really bridging that world, because not only do they serve as a novel treatment from a neurobiological perspective for some of the most treatment-resistant psychiatric conditions we have, it also, for many, serves as a connection to spirit. And this is why I'm so interested in integrating more of this into the world. And obviously, underground use is the way that the majority of people presently are using psychedelics, and I'm hoping that eventually it will be more above ground and we can move legislation into that. But it's also so important to speak here about what practices are the best practices and how to create safe, efficacious experiences to enable people to have the transformations that they need. So, thank you.
I'm Alana Harrell, and my journey with psychedelics started around 2015 when I was in a completely different life, all the things, and somehow it just didn't feel like I thought it was going to feel. And I asked the question, where are my people? Hands up in the air. And shortly after, I was introduced to a psychedelic community. Back then they were more rare. And about a year following, after taking to it, I started assisting that community. And so most of my training came from just on the ground experience, 25 people on a Saturday, 25 people on Friday. And that went on for a while. Actually, I was one of my facilitators later on. So in 2020, when the pandemic happened, a lot of the people that I had brought into the community, along with 2 other people, had nowhere to go and really needed help during that time that we all went through. And so we started a de facto community, and really there was no thought of being a facilitator. It was just about how can we help the people that are in need right now. And through doing it, for me, it's become a much deeper, it's just a way that I can serve. And I didn't realize that it all had to come through me in order so that I can show up in the best of my ability. So this whole thing, I had a thought one day. I was sitting, there was a conversation with someone from MAPS, and they said that, and this was when they thought it was going to get legalized, that for about the next 10 years, 90% of the people that were going to try psychedelics were going to do it illegally. And that means that was when we thought it was going to get legalized. So safety and efficacy and this whole time period is so incredibly important. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ryushin, and under the pretext of looking like I may be a psychedelic facilitator, I'm actually a stealth Buddhist who've been introduced to this crowd. And in a very real way, that is what I think I can contribute to the conversation. Because although I am deeply committed right now for the last 10 years on a pretty much regular basis, and that means several times a month, guiding and helping guide ayahuasca ceremonies, the thing that I can contribute is 30, 35, 40 years of systematic, rigorous engagement of the study of the human consciousness subjectively through meditation and comprehensive methods available through Buddhism, where over these last 10 years, after having left the monastery and where I was a teacher, looking with precision and open-mindedness on what is actually possible for us to deepen our capacity for intimacy with our bodies, hearts, minds, relationships, and to what degree this interface between systematic study of subjectivity and use of psychedelics in various ways can help that and help all of us in the various ways that we need to desperately do. So, pleasure to be here and see what happens.
Okay, well, a lot of you brought up safety and efficacy, and I know that's a big concern for you. I think that's one of the main reasons you felt like you wanted to surface this panel in a way. I think we'll start with that. Yeah, so if you're, an underground psychedelic guide, what do you do to kind of ensure your own safety? What do you do to ensure the safety of the individuals you're serving during the journeys? And kind of like how do you kind of like enhance the effectiveness or the efficacy? What methods do you use to kind of like, do you check in with people weeks after, months after? Or is there like integration calls? Like, how do you make sure that people are getting, something that has a sustaining positive impact for them? So safety and efficacy. Alana, you want to start since you were charged up on it?
Charged up on the safe. Well, first of all, there is definitely an intake process to figure out if people are candidates to get into psychedelics, and family history, all the things that you guys know about.
Maybe hold up the microphone.
Yeah, all the things that you know about. And integration, another time I was listening someone speak on a panel, and at this point, when I started out, I thought integration wasn't even a word. And I think if we ask all the people in here, they may have a different idea of what integration means. That's the thing about integration. Nobody could really say what it is. But the understanding of how you take the information and bring it into your real life, which is actually where the magic happens. So integration is, for me at this point, 50% of what we do, if not more. And having clear post experiences where we run integration workshops. Our community does a lot of free work. We do stillness and suppers, which is meditations and potlucks. So there's just a lot of opportunities for everyone to connect and really make sure that the people are doing okay post.
Is that different if you're doing a group session or an individual session, or the different protocols?
What's interesting is that the individual sessions, people have, because it's individual, they have less of a community experience. I love the community experience. I think it's so incredibly important because it really allows people to form bonds, and it's one of the ways that we then can relate to one another and process together. So when people are having their own independent ceremonies, they're just a little more disconnected from the overall communities. But the overall process, the intake process, and the offerings post are pretty much the same.
And how long do you stay in touch with them after?
Gosh, so first we do an integration process the following day. At this point, we now offer, on individual private sessions, I do 2 posts, so check in 2 weeks after, and then 2 weeks after that as well. And then we put them into our, every invitation, every free event that happens, which is an opportunity to connect. And
so community is part of the integration
huge
process. Okay.
Huge for us.
Well, Ian, you want to add?
Sure. It's on my hand.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm really bad with names sometimes.
This is funny because we went to high school
We
together.
did. We haven't seen each other in quite a bit of time.
And he called me Ian then too. Yeah, exactly. Safety is such a big part of how people heal. I think almost everyone who comes in, part of the reason why they're there is because they don't feel safe. So it does start with the intake call, and to see if you can really connect with the person. It's a big part of it. One of my early teachers, he said to me, when you take somebody on, you have to think about being with them for your whole life, their whole life. And so when you take them through an experience, you don't want to just knock their lights out and overwhelm them. You want to think about what do they need, even if you are only going to be with them one time. You have to think about them in this sort of longer term kind of way. So that that really stuck with me. And then I did some other things like, I like to have an RN in the group, holding space.
How big are the groups generally?
It depends, 10 to 20, sometimes more, sometimes less.
And it's different medicines? It's like
I work with a variety, yeah. But I do like to have somebody available, if not in person, at least on call. So I know other RNs, I know EMTs, I know doctors, and very often some of those people are also in the space either as helpers or participants. I have an understanding of the all kinds of things that could go wrong, procedures that you would take if certain things would come up. So there's like the physical part, there's the emotional, like mental part. Really, I want people to be really grounded by the end of their experience, because I find that when people are really grounded, when they leave, there's usually not a lot of questions. They kind of know what they need to do, they feel solid. But the community part is also really huge, and thankfully that kind of takes care of itself. People are having a positive experience, most people walk into a ceremony and they're like looking around, they're like, oh my God, these people are so weird. It's like, I don't want to talk to that person, this and that. And then by the next day, everybody's hugging. Everyone's family. No one forgets, each other. And
do you have a protocol of checking up with people like weeks or months after?
I mean, I used to do that a lot until I got better at grounding people before they left. And then I realized that, that's just kind of what they needed. And but I'm always available.
Yeah.
It's been really nice. Most of my clients have been really respectful. They only call me or text me when they really need something. But then there's the other part where I become friends with a lot of the people I work with. It's like we all become super close. Like we go through things. There's people here who I've been with for over 10 years.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So yeah, it's awesome.
Anna, what are you seeing in terms of safety and efficacy and integration work and so on?
Absolutely. So I'm not an underground psychedelic facilitator, but I can answer that. But I can answer the question from the point of view of clinical trials, which is the legal side of psychedelic use, and to talk about what is safe and efficacious in those settings. And I want to talk about three things. The first is exclusion criteria, which sometimes on the underground isn't always taken into account, or could be missed because people just don't know. And it also could be missed in legal settings and in clinical trials because people just might not know. So if, for instance, you're going to be using psilocybin or MDMA, if there is a family history of bipolar or psychosis, that's an exclusion. And in clinical trials, they go so far as to say that if it's not just a first-degree relative, if it's a second-degree relative. So a lot of exclusions. But you might actually have a genetic propensity that will only come out if you use a psychedelic. And I've certainly seen that as well. People have no family history, and lo and behold, they try psilocybin and get manic. And that unleashes a mania that then has to be treated in some way. So even with the best safety precautions, all we could do is have the best precautions, you can still miss things. So that's the first thing, is exclusion criteria. The second is set and setting, which is, set is your mindset. And I think this really goes in large part with what Ian is saying about grounding people, grounding them on the way in. I don't know why you keep becoming Ian to all of us. Why is that? So, thank you. So as Ian was saying, so you ground people on the way in with the right mindset, helping them cultivate the right mindset. A lot of people can have a lot of fear, which is obviously very natural and human, especially if it's your first time, but really helping them to work through that and to enter their experience with hope, optimism, and an openness. And then, the setting. The setting is all of the factors that come into play, mind, body, spirit, and your sensory experience that enable it to be a very powerful, calming, grounding presence for people. So I think between the exclusion criteria, set, and setting, those are three key things for safe and efficacious practices.
Question for you, actually. So do you work with patients one-on-one still? Or?
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if you've seen any, because now, the psychedelic movement has been very, very positive about the positive effects of psychedelics, but sometimes there's some concerns that maybe there's negative effects that we haven't really surfaced as much. And I'm wondering if you're seeing that in any way, or what forms those are taking.
Absolutely, and the more psychedelic use there will be, the more side effects there will be of psychedelics, some of which will be dangerous and negative effects of psychedelics. And so that's going to happen more and more, and it's so important that it not be underground, that this actually be well documented for us to be able to research this, study this, understand it. And it takes many forms. So I see a lot of patients who have had psychedelic use, so they come to me for integration, but they also come if they've had a negative experience and they're not sure what to do now. They've had this experience and their perceptual experiences are persisting. And so there's this one condition, HPPD, hallucinogen persistent perceptual disorder. And this is when after you use a hallucinogen like psilocybin, you can have those persistent effects, whether it be halos or seeing things or things that you can have in a psychedelic experience which are totally normal, but in your real life are not totally normal, and they can persist for days, weeks, months, sometimes even years after the experience. And this is with any hallucinogen. And so this has been reported. And then visual snow syndrome, which is like another form of hallucinogens, like a perceptual disorder. And then, for a lot of people, it does unleash. People might have a propensity for some sort of disorder that they might not be aware of. They might have a genetic propensity. And this could make someone manic, make somebody psychotic. But this can also happen not just through psychedelics. This can happen through any kind of deeply transformative spiritual experience, including meditation. I have people come to me as often for experiences like this through meditation and through breath work, etc., as through psychedelics. So this is just to be clear, this is not limited to psychedelics. People are consciousness explorers. They're seeking higher levels of consciousness. They're seeking enlightenment, expansion. And in the course of that, you can overshoot the mark. And you can become psychotic. And you can lose yourself and then have to figure out how to get back to yourself. And this is a lot of what I help my patients, et cetera, to get back to. And we're still together, because I'm on a psychiatric listserv, we're all still trying to figure out together as my profession how best to do this. And when patients do overshoot the mark, what is the best treatment? How do you ground them? So this is not, it's still an untapped area.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm curious also even about more subtle personality changes. Might be interesting. But Ryushin, let's hear from you about safety, efficacy, integration. What are you seeing out there? What are some of your practices that have worked best for you?
Well, I think the good place to start is to acknowledge that this is inherently unsafe, what we're doing. It's like we're exploring the mystery. We're heading beyond, in the old maps in medieval days, they had the dragons kind of on the edge of the map, and that's where we're heading. So I think the question may be reframed of how can we create a setting which conveys certain level of safety, or comfort, or care, or deep appreciation, awareness, witnessing, whatever those qualities are, that allows the individual and the group to venture forth into that territory which is the unknown. We are definitely dealing with things that can be addressed as symptoms on a social level, personal level, but we're exploring the mystery, the edges of human consciousness.
I'll make sure you talk a little bit closer.
Human consciousness, so there is something about that. And I mean, when you ask the question, this moment came in because from the Buddhist perspective, we're kind of, this is dangerous. Trungpa used to say, this is like dangerous to your ego to sit in meditation. You're going to start seeing through the illusory structures and all of that. And what I've learned working with a co-facilitator who is very, very much attuned to the difference between conveying the safety and then creating the space of letting go into that mystery. You want to talk a little bit about what that practice is, what that co-facilitator? Which one? That you described. Well, the way we put it is that my role in the creating of that particular environment is to take care of the space within which the content of a person's and a group's process is going to start to manifest, and allow people to really venture into territories which may be tremendously, non-ordinary, foreign, painful, and at the same time support them in not to become overly fascinated with the content, not be terrorized or seduced by what's going on. And that can be done. That's the facility of this meditation, that it allows you to recognize the nature of your mind, which is non-judgmental, which is open, and where the sense of anxiety or processes, similar to that, can be supported. Acknowledging that there is a moment and a certain dose and a certain phase of the ceremony where there's a place where nobody remembers what the container is. You're so sucked into the process, to the content that you just gone, but this dialectic between the screen of the mind that we all have, that's always clear and available and lucid and available, has content on it. And we need to learn how to navigate that, and that's a profound teaching that gives you a sense of safety. But the thing that in my mind, always, and that has come up recently, that one of the important things that supports the safety is deep understanding of the facilitator of what their intention is. Profoundly, like really look at that. Why am I doing this?
Why are you doing it?
Literally, the way I would frame it right now is to create a space within which, through attention, awareness, care, touch, beauty, expression of love and care, a person and a group can navigate towards deepening of their intimacy with their body, with their heart, with their mind, with their awareness, with their content, with their field of relationality. And that's it. What that will be, we'll see. But the intention is to create and facilitate the space where that can unfold.
And what about the kind of integration question afterwards? Do you have a protocol, or do you have like an intake form, or is it less formal? How do you structure it?
All of this is integration. So, again, opinions, but, this notion that integration can be some way of framing the nature of the mysterious experience is a problematic one for me, because the moment we integrate, we can actually stop the process that is going on all the time. So we don't actually use the word integration, we use the words appreciation, follow through, deepening, and actually support people in as much to try to name and articulate what actually might have happened, but not towards any conclusive sense of what that was, but more in terms of skillfulness of how does that inform every aspect of their life. And that doesn't require, that happens almost continuously. So, we do, I think in the way that most of us do, pretty much stay in touch with people open-endedly. There are formal checkpoints, but, as Ian said, that was demonstration of safety. That made Ian feel safe. This notion that if you do this work, you're committed for life. It's like, what is this? We're entering into a conversation about, again, the depths of the human experience, your experience, and like, we're going to shake hands on Sunday. No, so there is. I think that, again, that intention of seeing this as an open-ended process is profoundly important. And that's the intentionality, I think, then situates and communicates something about, I may tell you that I'm going to be with you and get hit by the car on 6th Avenue. But I mean that when I say that I'll do whatever I can to be available as that process opens up. And not just for you, because that's the other thing. The integration is relational. So, I'm not in any kind of a superior position in that process. This is continuously unfolding for me.
Interrelation.
That's it. That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about the, so Alana mentioned that even if MAPS had won the approval, they were saying that 90% of work would be underground. So yeah, obviously, when I started exploring this stuff like 25 years ago, it was all underground. There wasn't even a possibility of above ground. Also we see what's happening in the world right now. Trumpocalypse may bring a lot of negative things, but it may bring a new legal, kind of atmosphere around psychedelics, because both Musk and RFK Jr. have expressed interest in kind of deregulating them. And all these companies have started, the billion-dollar companies